Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of An Author's Kiss right here at selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful guest today is Stacia Moffett. We're going to be talking about Lost and Found in Tennessee, two books that she has written. One, The Missing Girl, and Jessica is Back. What are these books all about? What do they mean to us? Well, she is an author of Lost and Found in Tennessee, the two-book historical fiction series, The Missing Girl and Jessa is Back, explores the cultural and racial legacies throughout compelling stories of friendship, resilience, and identity. She writes and informed on her own life experience of growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, and studying in Mississippi during the 1960s. Current events are changing, those hard-won changes romanticized by the 50s and the good old days, that was a fallacy. She wants to create stories that only transport readers into a different time, but place them, also encourage them to think critically about the enduring legacies of the past. Through these characters and their struggles, she hopes to offer a deeper understanding of the South and its complex history. So much of complex history here, the Jim Crow era, the whole gosh, when we think of the South, we think of turmoil, most certainly. And when we think of the South, we think that perhaps it's still in turmoil. It's very hard for people to shake off the past. Even, the 50s isn't that long ago, really. And even when you go back 100 years or more, people are still so entrenched in what used to be that they find it so hard to be present and move forward without carrying that baggage with them. And so,
That's right. That's
yes,
so true.
how do we get them to dump the baggage this year? Welcome to the show.
Well, I do feel that have something to share because I grew up in the 1950s and I was present for a lot of the kinds of action that I convey in the book. And I want people to understand what it's like to be born into the system
Mm,
because you are much entrenched, you accept things. This is the way things always have been. And that's why we have to educate ourselves. We have to know about our history in order to put things in perspective. And through the main character of these two books, Jessa, she is experiencing an awakening of righteousness, I guess. She has the experience of becoming a friend of a Black girl. And
mhm,
this only happens in Portland, Oregon, through the period in which her relatives take her to finish off the school year in Oregon. And during that time, her eyes are opened and
mhm,
she is able to see the Jim Crow South in its true viciousness when she returns to undergo some custody hearings. But Jessa is a character who is um, stubborn. She is determined, and she has a lot of reason for being the way she is. She is, first of all, brought up in a family that was not particularly bigoted, although
mhm.
it accepted the way things were because that's the way everyone did in
Yeah.
the 1950s. It was just um, a way of life, and the town was divided into the white section and the black section, and everything else was divided. The schools were divided, the drinking fountains were divided, and you see these things and you really don't question them as a 12-year-old girl until something shows you that it is wrong, totally wrong, and she tries to convey that to other people. So she becomes a protagonist that is arguing for friendship across racial lines. And she sees situations in the town in which this would be possible, and she does her best to promote it. The other theme in the book is music. Uh,
Mm.
Jessa's parents are killed in a terrible automobile crash at the beginning of the first book, and she runs away with her dog and lives a self-sufficiency life uh, inside a hollow tree, which is illustrated on the first book. But she is able to make it for a while and feel that her upbringing and her grandparents, all the wisdom that they shared with her, is acting out in her life while she cares for herself and her dog. But the weather turns against her. It
Mhm.
becomes threatening and rainy and snowy, and then she realizes that she has to get out of there. And that's the time when these relatives show up from Oregon. And so she identifies herself to them. They did not find her. She successfully eluded the sheriff and the gangs that were trying to locate her for uh, there was a reward offered for her discovery. And so a lot of people went out looking for her, but she eluded them all. And she and her dog maintained about 7 weeks in isolation, during which time the town fell into disarray. They began to blame the blacks. And this
Of
was the
course.
kind of thing that would always happen in the
Yeah.
South. Surely the blacks were responsible. So they arrest one black mechanic, a very well known and respected individual in the community, drag him into the police station, and he has to stay there, even though there are no charges against him, because this was before there was any right
Right.
proper
Human rights, what are
procedures.
those? Yeah.
Yeah, it was before that, and it is the case that Jessa and her family had been part of the town that was involved in most of the celebrations, being involved with music. Her parents would organize events and put the special additional sparkle to them that made the town proud of itself. And so it was a great loss for the parents to be killed and for the music shop that they operated to fall into disarray. But she, Jessa, is determined to follow through with her father's dreams, which were to get the black school to have instrumental music in the curriculum. The white school had added it 3 years earlier, and at that time, the father wanted it to be in all of the schools, but this was a, an expression of the discrimination. It was a frivolity
Yeah.
as far as the blacks were concerned. They didn't need that. They just needed the rhythm, reading and writing and arithmetic, and get out and get a job to serve us. That
Right.
was that was the attitude that they had.
Still the
So
slave mentality. Hmm.
yes, it was definitely keep these people in their place.
Yeah.
And so she Jessa meets with the um, school board, and she is able to get the school board to tell her that there's no money, and so she's going to raise the money. And there's music in the park, events in the town. Now that she's joined the town with her relatives, so she's able to participate in the planning for that. And the son of the black mechanic who was incarcerated before Jessa came back to life,
Mm.
as far as the town was concerned, uh, his son is very musically talented. And so she had requested before she went to Portland, Oregon, that a half size violin be given to him because he was interested in the music because of his grandfather playing the violin, but he couldn't play a full size violin. So his grandfather teaches him, and he is one of the performers that Jessa is trying to get organized for this summer program. And that's when you begin to have clashes between the
Right.
whites who say, you can't mix the races. You can't have these
Oh,
these
oh my goodness, what would happen
yes,
if we do?
yes.
Yes.
It was a terrible affront to
Right.
have the black families coming to the park to see their own people performing. So this is the background that I brought to it. I did not try to tell the story from a black person's standpoint. I'm
Hmm.
simply saying what a white person making a discovery of the unfairness of segregation can sometimes make a difference in the town.
Right.
And
How
Jessa
much of
was
this
able
is
to make
is
it.
is based on a real character, or is this a great deal of you, especially the feistiness?
Well, I would say that definitely it was my personality that I gave to Jessa, but I think that she has relatives and a adopted sister who is also uh, displaying some of the characteristics that I would claim for my own.
Hmm.
But I think that it's very important for us to understand that children are capable, more capable than we give them credit. And
Absolutely.
and in this case, there have been many instances in which girls have stood up for education for girls. This was another example of that.
Well, and we're so going backwards right now. I mean, human beings are very, very easy to bring to hysteria, right? So
Absolutely.
easy. You just go
Yes.
boo and it's ah, and then it's immediately point fingers. It has to be somebody else's fault, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
they love a lynch mob. They really do. And you just see people that you would think are rational with common sense get caught up in this hysteria. And the next thing you know, someone's been hung and oh, oops,
Yeah.
I'm sorry afterwards, a bit too late because we're seeing it right now in America,
Yes,
the
we are.
politics and the divide and the sensationalism of what comes out of somebody's mouth that then stirs people up. They don't stop to think, is it true? Is it right? Is, can I do some research on this? Can I stand by this? And instead, they're caught up in the hype of the sensationalism and they've become sheeple. And there's somebody
Mhm.
just barring along there and they're and it is quite, as an outside observer, because I'm in Canada, to watch this and go, do you have a thought of your own? Isn't there something at the back of your head saying, this is
Yeah.
wrong? They showed a picture on social media of a guy going into a coffee shop with, an AK-7 on his back, guns in his hip. And it's
Ah,
like, no, we're not in the Wild West anymore. It's actually
no.
illegal to carry a weapon around with you unless you are a police officer or somebody that is legalized to do it. And yet now that's become the norm. And it's like sense of reasoning and common sense. Let's face it, the white people bought black people over to make slaves of, right? And by
Yeah.
telling everybody they're no better than a monkey, which we have since found out that monkeys are extremely intelligent, that
Yes, we're not knocking the monkeys, but
and no,
these
it's
are human beings.
it's
Yes.
it's the whiteness of our human beings of by making sure everybody knows that these people are nothing other than servants, that they can't think for themselves, they can't feel, they're nothing, right? Then it made it okay for people to have slavery
Mhm.
because
That's
these people
exactly what's
were on
necessary.
right, exactly. If you looked at them as an equal or equally intelligent or equally feeling or with a heart or with a contribution, how could you treat them as a slave? So it was necessary for the white people to say, they're nothing. They're just here to serve you. They don't have a thought. They don't have intelligence. And they're still trying to pass this off today
Yes,
that
it's true.
anybody of any color has, is not as bright as the white. But I'm sorry, I'm looking where the white supremacy is going at the present moment, and I go, is there a brain in there? Because it
No,
ain't
there's
activated.
no thought. There's no
No,
thought process.
no,
It's it's
all
terrible.
reactionary.
Yeah.
And so, although we think we've come far, right? Black president, a black vice president who hopefully will make another black president, and Asian. Hopefully we get there, because hopefully that the common sense of why you need a president with experience rather than
Yes, and just
popularity, um, hopefully prevails. But it really, when you think about it, we are in 2024 and we are still looking at this.
white
And
supremacy is rising up, and the swastika,
yes,
Nazism.
yep,
It's even in
fascism.
Idaho around me. It's not just the South.
Hmm.
It's pockets all over the United States of objection, and the attacks on the FEMA workers in North Carolina are
Hmm.
just incredible, incredible.
Yeah. I mean,
Thoughtless.
we haven't learned for all our history, for all our supposed intelligence, we haven't learned. We're still in this me, myself, and I, and everyone is out to get me. And it is, do you not understand that as not only a human race, but as a living race on this planet, it is about us? How
Yes.
are we here to serve one another? How are we here to contribute, quote, pay rent to be here on this planet and contribute something that is of benefit to all living creatures? And yet we still haven't got that message. We're still into that divide and we've gone backwards. And when you look at Roe versus Wade, it's I don't know if you've watched The Handmaid's Tale, the series, but I
I have seen it and read the
right.
book.
So I'm saying it's become a syndrome, and the men have watched that, didn't comprehend it. Go, well, I want that woman
Yeah,
barefoot and
yeah.
pregnant, and
Uh,
it's please for God's sake, surely by now, we could grow up.
yes, you would think, but the human race has got some deep flaws.
Yes.
I'm afraid that it's got some fatal flaws,
Yeah.
and it really worries me.
And that fatal flaws will be our fertility. We will, you know, succumb to that because we are, you look at what's going on with Israel and Iran right now. How many bombs can they drop at each other every minute? And it's like, well, it's an eye for an eye leaves people blind,
Yes,
and
absolutely. All of them are blind.
all of them. It's so full of hatred. Where did we get there? Where did we get there that the human soul and spirit lost its compass of heart and soul and spirit and kindness and love and compassion and became on fear and hate and opulence and greed and power that outweighed it. I know it's always been the human tendency, but I thought we were evolving, but it doesn't look like
It,
it, does
it
it?
doesn't look like it. I'm afraid it's very it's sad. The attitude is, I've got mine, Jack. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I I just
yeah.
ignore anybody else's needs because I'm sitting pretty, and that's what I'm going to protect.
So your book, although set in the 50s, and definitely about segregation, and that isn't as apparent anymore, although there is still judgment and persecution going on. And of course, we're seeing it now with the Jewish people, right? Or
Right,
when
and voting restrictions.
voting restrictions, all of that. When COVID came out, we have a very high Asian population here. So people were being attacked because they were Asian. Because obviously they brought the COVID around, right? And the seniors, I mean, there was a 98-year-old thrown to the ground. I mean, God's truth, please. And
Yes.
it's like, I do really feel the thing that has definitely gone is common sense. And where do you think it went?
I think that greed was uppermost, and
Hmm.
uh, people's sense of being superior,
Yeah.
wanting to be superior. Uh, it's just taken over. The sad thing in the South, there's such an abundance of wonderful weather, climate. It should be shared. It should be something
Hmm.
that people could enjoy, and take everybody forward with a good future. And when I was growing up in the South, I never had a black friend. I never, until I was a professional college teacher and went to a conference and was able to room with a black woman. And she was, I chose her because of the area code. I knew that it was Nashville. And so I thought, well, it would be nice to room with somebody from Nashville. So I got to the hotel room, and this poor young graduate student was scared stiff that I was going to raise a big stink because I had somehow ended up rooming with a black person. And I was so thankful to be able to make her acquaintance because she had a, a life history similar to mine, educated parents, a career option that was similar to the one I had chosen. And was my first chance. And that was the sad thing because
Yes.
I had grown up in surrounded by these wonderful people and yet cut off from them.
Right, exactly. I mean, I was brought up in England. The first black person I ever saw when I was 13 at school. She came to school, and I'd never ever met a black person before, seeing them on TV and things like that, but never met them. And then my mother and I moved to South Africa. So completely going into a different world where, that segregation was very much there. Apartheid was very, very
Wow.
strong, and would get into trouble quite a lot because I was interacting with people of color. And it's one of the reasons I left. Misogyny, because it was
Mhm.
rampant over there, and also the racism, it just got to me completely. I had to leave. I couldn't live it like that anymore. An exceptionally beautiful country, but just so, topsy-turvy in the sense of, what would go on and how people would be brutally beaten or killed, and nobody would ever know anything about it. The only reason I did is I had people in different corners, and just they were nothing. They were nothing, and that's something
Yeah.
that, coming from my heart and soul. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're black, white, pink, polka dot. I look at your heart, I look at your character, I look at your soul. This is just a casing that you come in, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, it's why we're still talking about it in 2024, I don't know. But your book, even though based in the 50s, is still relevant today because now we pick on Hispanics or pick on people that, from Arab nations, anybody that isn't
Yeah.
white. But,
Yeah. Well,
it's,
it's so unfair,
yeah,
so unfair, and I think that people have to be taught to behave that way. I don't think kids thrown together would be beyond it
so,
immediately.
yes,
Uh,
exactly. Oh, you're a different
but
color. Why? And it's just all intrigue. And it's like, well, I'm not going to, I mean, racism is taught, most certainly. Hatred is taught. And hatred comes from fear, and fear is insecurity, but it's a lack of knowledge. When you
Mhm.
teach people knowledge, then they can deduce for themselves and not be so governed by fear or dictation of someone else, right? But that comes to us, and the onus of why are you so cripply feared by somebody of a different color or a different race or a different political party or a different religion? Why are you so afraid? How much of it is entrenched in your DNA of hundreds of years of this? And how much of it is that you simply do not know and you need to be educated?
Well, I think that if children were left to themselves, they would be able to bridge these gaps.
Yeah,
And it's just the adults and their insecurity that is enforcing this.
yeah.
And uh, but we have such a terrible history of abusing people. We did it with
Mm,
the Native Americans.
yes.
Where I lived here, the reservations are so poorly funded. The health system on the reservations uh, has just been abysmal,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
and the
and we,
alcoholism and
yes. Oh, they're just a bunch of alcoholics. Who made them so? They were proud a nation that lived in America, like here in Canada, long before we turned up. What we should have done is learned from them.
that's right because they had it right.
Yes, Yes.
They were doing it right. They were caring for the land,
Yeah.
and their attitude toward each other was far more humane.
Yeah. Yes. They respected the stars and the sky and the wisdom from above, and they respected the land. And think about it, Earth gives us absolutely everything we need.
Hmm.
But look how we abuse her.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So we've got such an abusive nature in our DNA. But I do believe that not only with education, but with heart thoughtfulness, we can change that DNA.
I would hope so, but the Northern European approach has been so destructive.
Hmm. Oh, yes. When we're looking at the world again, it's that I'm just turned 70, so I'm at a different era in my life. And I've got two baby grandsons, a 3-year-old and a 16-month-old. And I look at them and I go, pray to God that there is a world for you to stand in,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. It's what
Um,
we've done to the environment and
yes.
the political system that's collapsing.
And it's like again, as you say, you look at the children and we look at some of our children, we refer to them as indigo children. They're incredibly smart. And it was predicted a long time ago that the children would come to save us with their rationale and the the common sense kind of
Yeah,
attitude towards things, and it can't happen fast enough. But where I don't know what it is with us. Is it something in the water and the foods, which I do believe, actually? Yes, the chemicalization of what we're doing, I think, is changing us, a lot as well, and it's making us more diseased and diseased. And I
hmm
think we're thinking from that diseased thought process.
right. But it's been going on a long time.
Yes.
Faulkner said, the South was doomed.
Hmm.
It was doomed by all of the bloodshed, the harm that had been enacted in that area.
The
It's
karma,
just,
right? The karma keeps carrying on, right?
mhm.
And yes, you've got, a girl trying to bring music. And of course, music is, I have these shows called For the Love of Music because music is very close to my soul and a guilty pleasure to interview. Music is the common ground. It's the common language. It doesn't
Yes.
matter who you are, where you're from, what language you speak. Music is something that brings us together. So, her coming at the approach of bringing the music to connect the people and,
Hmm.
we revere people of color from the past of their music and what they have to say, but as long as they stayed on their patch, right?
Right, right. Everybody in his place.
Yes. And what place is that? Your Earth. Everybody on Earth, right?
And
If you don't like
such
it,
a,
go to the moon.
yeah, such a beautiful, wonderful planet with so many intriguing creatures and lovely,
Yeah.
lovely weather. We're just so blessed. It's a shame what we've done to it.
Yes, I'd like to get Elon Musk to get a nice big spaceship and take all the people that are disgruntled with this world and go somewhere else.
Yes, yes. Let them leave.
Please. Uh, One of the dangerous things is many schools have done this where they don't even talk about First or Second World War or the Holocaust. And, children are brought up today not knowing real history. And so,
That's true.
how can you understand the horrificness of what one human would do to another um, if we're not talking about it?
You can't
Suppressing
let
it.
those children be unhappy with themselves, yet they can't be ashamed. No,
Right.
no,
Hmm.
that's just forbidden. We've got to mollify everything and keep everybody just proud, proud because we are great. We are all wonderful. That's the attitude that they have, and
We all
it's
have the potential to be wonderful, but it's based on our actions. And our actions are based on what our knowledge is. And we like in the 50s, you grew up, nobody ever thought black, white, that's just the way it was. Nobody questioned it
yeah,
until someone questioned it like she did,
mhm,
right? Until someone
yes,
questioned it and start pushing those buttons, you don't see things. Oh, there's another side to this. Yes, I hadn't thought about that. And we make decisions on the knowledge we know at the time. The more knowledge we know, the better our decisions could be.
right. And so the book banning is
Mm,
school boards. even around here, uh, the school boards were under fire
Mhm.
for what was in the library, that kind of thing.
Yes.
It's really ridiculous. I mean, when Mark Twain would be uh, censored for Huckleberry Finn, I mean, this is not appreciating our history and
No.
learning from it, which
No.
is what we've got to do.
Well, because what does that reflect in the history? How bad the white man, I'm white, folks, the white man treated anybody else of color. All right. And
Yep.
today, when we're looking at billionaires who can buy politicians, billionaires that can suppress the truth, billionaires that can do this and do that, right? They've
Yeah.
got the money, and we are letting them get away with it because they're billionaires. Where's the accountability? And I think, as every single human being, one of the things we have is a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to this earth, to each other, and accountability.
Mhm. Yes, we've got a lot to account for in
Yes.
this country.
So, reading this book is something that reflects on all the things that were wrong. And I won't be surprised if it doesn't hit the ban thing. So, go out and buy it and share it around right now before they do, because anything that shows the white man in bad light is what they're suppressing, right? But you
Right.
can't, we've got this thing called internet. Right? And we've got this thing where
Yes,
people talk about things, and it's like trying to put the baby back in the womb. We're out, right? The
we're
knowledge
out.
is out. And if you are banning the books, then we're going to talk more about the books. There is a wonderful celebrity photography called Kimberly Butler out of New York. And she is a huge advocate around fighting around these banned books, and bringing more and more awareness to it and fighting the system. And we have to step up. Why do these people have power? Because we let them.
And also because they're armed.
Right. Yes. What did
There
Elon
is
Musk
an
say the
element
other
of
day?
that
Yes, yes. Elon
that's
Musk said,
coming in.
we have the First Amendment is free speech. The Second Amendment is guns that allows
Guns,
our free
guns,
speech.
guns.
Yeah, excuse me? Excuse me? So we're allowed to have free speech, but you've got a gun on us to tell us how free that speech is allowed to be?
Yeah.
All
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah. So maybe AI needs to take over. It's got more common sense than we do.
Hmm. Yeah.
If we don't teach our children, and there's the sad thing is how many ignorant people are out there. Even on the last 20 years of the history. I mean, there are people that think that Putin is a good guy and that we should run this country like Russia
Yes.
because they've bought the doctrine. And so if we've got people that are thinking that, because quite honestly, they refuse to think for themselves, they'll buy whatever garbage is given them. But if we don't start educating our children, they're going to be the ones to educate the adults. They're going to be ones to change the future. So it is essential that we get this knowledge in them. Writing things, and it's been proven over and over again, writing factual things in I call it faction, fictional way of bringing about the facts, in a way that, oh no, this is just a fictional story, but it's based on fact. It educates the children to ask questions. Why did this happen? Is this still happening? Just like and Jessa's way of suddenly looking, oh, I hadn't seen this before. Now my eyes are open. I'm more aware. This is
Mhm.
what we want our children to be. They're going to start questioning their parents,
Yeah.
right? And their parents are going to have to start reading up on things to actually answer that. So let's let's get it to the children so they can be the ones to push. I want to know why.
Yes. One of the reasons I wrote the books is that when we tried to talk to our children about what we had experienced growing up in the South, they wouldn't believe it. They
No,
couldn't believe it. It didn't make any sense,
right.
and it doesn't make any sense.
No.
But it was the way things were. And
Yes.
so I wanted people to see that so that they would not think, oh, the 1950s, the wonderful 1950s, when every suburban household had a refrigerator and gas
TV.
range and a
Yeah.
TV and could watch the soap operas. And the women were very content staying at home. Yes,
Yes.
that was the ideal. And it was terrible for the blacks. The
Mm,
blacks were discriminated against at a higher rate than had been before the wars. It was just awful. The way everybody was supposed to go back to their places and white men were running the country. They had the jobs and they had the money, and that
mm.
was the way they wanted it.
Have you seen the movie Hidden Figures?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, please see it. Please see it.
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. It's a historical movie, very well done. And it's about the Apollo getting them, the astronauts up there. And before they had the computers, they had a whole load of women, mathematicians, most of them black, working out
Uh-huh.
the numbers. Then they got these huge computers in, massive, where half the people didn't know how to operate them, but the women did because they were mathematically minded. And it ended up that the astronauts only trusted this one particular woman, her math, in order to re-enter, to come back into Earth because they had run into
Yes.
problems. And, you know, and what she went through as a black woman amongst all these intelligent white men. And here
Yeah.
she was, the most intelligent of all of them, right?
Yes.
But we're seeing this more and more now.
But
Uh,
there were no restrooms for her.
no, yes, she had to go a mile to go to the
Yes.
restroom. Yes. And, we're seeing this more and more now where it comes up on social media, a woman of color, especially a woman of color, but very often men too, um, of things that they invented, that they
Mm-hmm.
created out of necessity for their people, that the
Yes.
white people then liked, but they suppressed where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
suppressed the innovation and made it a white man's thing. Uh,
Yes.
and so I've got nothing against you being white, but we've got to be accountable for our actions. And if
Yes.
we're going to say that we're more superior because of our skin color, it's excuse me. I think you need
It's a
to rephrase that. It's
stupid thing.
stupid. I know a lot of dumb white people. So
Yes.
yes, it's got nothing to do with it whatsoever. Um, Intelligence isn't always academic. And very often it can be intuitive intelligence. And some people are really brilliant at academia. And who cares again what vessel they're in? It's a question of their ability, but it also, I firm believer we're all born with a gift to discover. We're all born with something that we are capable of doing. That's our contribution. And when we discover what that is, that's when we perfect that and it becomes our service. And whether it's academia or something else, it doesn't matter. It's just discover what it is because that is what you are now sharing out with the world. And again, who cares what package it comes in, please?
Right.
It goes to, people with neurodiversity, autism, Down syndrome, this and that. And of course, if you were born with differently abledness in any way, you were written off. You were dumb, retarded,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
those words and
Institutionalized.
institutionalized, which were horrific.
Yeah.
Again, what they did is unbelievable. I just don't understand how humans can do that to another human. I call them humanoids because they don't have a heart and a soul. You can't have a heart and a soul and do that to another human. So again, we need to get off our high horse. We need to stop being so scared that somebody might be brighter than us, right? Or that
Right.
somebody may have the answers we don't have. The whole thing about an orchestra is everybody brings their instrument to it to play harmoniously together,
Mhm.
right? And so it's time that we play it together nicely.
Right. Right. We all can contribute if we
Yes.
give ourselves a chance.
Hmm.
So,
I'm glad that you've targeted this. What age group? Kind of 8 to 108.
yes. Right. I can picture a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old reading this,
Hmm.
but I want her discussing it with her mother and her grandmother.
Yes.
And so I think it would be great for book clubs.
Yes.
I want it discussed. I
Yes.
want people to grapple with the questions.
If libraries or schools have banned books, then why don't parents get together and form book clubs to to take those books and read them outside of the system,
Good plan. Good
right?
plan. Mhm.
I'm always talking about podcast clubs where people listen to a podcast, take notes, and then share those notes afterwards because then you have different perspectives of what people got from it. It's the same thing with a book, different perspectives. Somebody get, oh, this really moved me, or I didn't know that. And now you've got the feast on the table, right?
Mhm.
And that's the
Yes.
beauty of it. And it's like the more we discuss things, I'm always saying when you're aware, you care,
Mhm.
right?
That's right.
You can't be
That's
unaware once you're aware.
that's why we need integrated schools. That's why we need people to have the opportunity to be friends with
Yeah,
other people.
yes. And we shouldn't look at somebody's um, brilliance and go, well, economically, you can't afford university.
Mhm.
You're too poor, but you're brilliant. And then somebody else get in because daddy can afford it, but doesn't really want to be there. Again, we need to look at, the brains that need to be nurtured because
Mhm.
they're part of that solution for our future.
Yep. Yep.
But conversation, 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 right?
Mhm.
You've written this in a beautiful story of her discovery, not only of herself, but what's around her,
Mhm.
her resilience, her strength, her desire to carry on her father's work, to
Mhm.
bring the music to everyone, right?
Yes.
Despite
Mhm.
the pushback. And she's
Sure.
doing this as a child.
Mhm.
Now
Mhm.
we know that some children, before kind of it gets beaten out of them, I think have such resilience and tenacity.
Mhm.
And we want that to inspire us to go, okay, if she can do it, surely I can do something.
Surely. Yes.
Excellent.
Mhm.
How do people get the book? How do they find you? Because I know people are going to want to discuss things more with you. This is a hot topic, most certainly. Um, and yeah, I want people to really to look at the book club, to look at making this something that you don't just read to yourself, and that maybe even is a family book where you will read it together. The
Mhm.
old-fashioned way of reading a chapter around the fireplace, right? Remember
Yes.
those
Yes.
days?
Yes.
Um, and get more out of it, but it's going to have to be, push, push, push in order for people to understand it's a great story, but it's a reveal.
It is.
So how do people find it?
Okay. Well, Lost and Found in Tennessee, all written together.com will get you to the website, and there you can use Amazon or any other approach. You can uh, read it online if you wish, or you can get the hard copy books through that site. And contact me. I'm Stacia Moffett at at gmail.com. So
Okay. Uh,
just my name written together.
Right. And also you're on Facebook, Stacia, Stacia dot Moffett,
No, no
Moffett.
dot.
Oh,
No, no dot.
okay, that's what it's got here on the Facebook. Um,
Oh,
okay, so just put in the name then, Stacia, Stacia, Moffett, Moffett, and start forming a conversation there.
mhm.
Please share what this book has revealed to you, things you didn't know, things
I
that
would
you
love
would like
to
to,
hear from
be.
you.
This is what the book is written for. Yes, it's
It's
entertaining.
to
Yes, it's revealing.
communicate.
Yes,
It's to
yes,
educate, and
hmm
we all need to discuss the
yes.
implications of what's happening today in the light of our personal failings
Mm,
and challenges.
yeah.
The
And there's
challenges
plenty
that
of challenges ahead of us right now, but it isn't, as I was saying, when people point the finger, well, it's up to government, it's up to them. No, there's three fingers pointing back at you. Where's your onus? Where's your responsibility? What's your action?
yeah,
And we've got to stop pointing the finger and realize we are the action we seek. We are the voice.
absolutely.
We are the
Yes,
love. We are the peace. We've got to step up. And if we don't like it, we've got to speak out. And you don't have to do it alone. You just need to find those other people and make it a chorus.
that's right. And it will be harmonious.
Yes. Yes. No pitchforking.
No
No pitchforking,
pitchforking.
right? Accountability. Where is the rationale? Where is the common sense? We need to point out when things are just coming from someone's hysteria rather than from fact. But it's all about invitation because inspiration begets invitation. So inspire someone to be invited to want to step up and be a part of the change. Otherwise, in another 70 years, we're going to see a story about this time period. And anybody reading it then are going, are you kidding me?
Couldn't be possible.
Oh, we don't want that,
We're
please.
not so stupid as that. Please, please.
Yes, please, please, please. Let us learn from the past. And if people don't know what the past is, let them have the book. Christmas is coming up, folks, right? Great idea to give the school a few books.
Mhm.
Donate them, right? They didn't buy them, they were given by a parent. So before anything gets in there as banned, get it in there.
And the
Make
libraries as
the
well.
libraries and give it out as gift friends to people you know that have got anything from the age of 8, 7, 8 up.
Mhm.
Let's not underestimate our children today. They are so much
Right.
smarter at 7, 8 than we were as teenagers. So let's let's get them reading. Let's invite them to ask questions. Let's invite them to say, let's go down this historical path and compare it to today and what can we do about it. So we're the action we seek. So please start with the book, get it out there, and
Good.
let's keep the conversation going.
Please. That's what I wrote the books for.
Exactly. Beautifully, written and wonderful story around the music and coming together, but with the underlying balderdash that was going on at the time that we're seeing going
Yeah,
on again and how we need to put a cork in it before it goes any further.
absolutely. Good luck.
Good luck. It's going to take all of us. And it doesn't
It's
matter.
going
I'm in
to.
Canada. What happens in America affects Canada. We've got the same kind of thing going on here. And so we've just got to speak out, folks. So please be a part of the future. Thank you so much, Stacia, for writing the book, for speaking out, and for being on the show with us here today.
It's been delightful, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And once again, folks, the site is lost and found in Tennessee.com. And on Facebook, Stacia, Stacia Moffett, Moffett. And please keep the conversation going. Get these books. We are the solution that we need. Until next time, folks, bye for now.
Thank you. Bye bye.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tab at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.